You can record now, right? Michelle, I will let you have to become the host.
I got it.
You got to make yourself host, right? Okay. Got it. Yes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Now you can do it, Michelle.
Okay. We are in business. Thank you, Coldwell Banker George Realty Agents. Again, this is John Wax from Snap NHD, and he's preparing to share some exciting news with you.
Yes,
Come on over.
I'm coming over. Your phone is off now.
Okay, thank you.
You're off the link, so you're good. I need to bring my water over. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I'm John Wax with Snap NHD. A little bit about me. I've been in the business 30 years. It's my 30th year in the business. And I just want to bring you the most updated information regarding the NHD industry and show you some tips and some things that you can use to help you with your business. And some of the things that I can do is show you. This is our website. It's www.snapnhd.com. This is the homepage. At the very top of the page, it says estimator. You work with buyers. You can plug in and just follow the prompts as to, there's 3 things that you have to put in, like a property address. I'm going to do my own. And zip code or unit if you have a unit. And then it's say lookup. And it really takes seconds. I'm just going to put a rough figure and say next month. And there you go. Right here, you see the annual tax bill for next year, and then the supplemental taxes, and what that amount would be. So that gives you a little map of where the property is located, and here's the basics of the property: the address, the APN number, where county it's located, and the owners. So it's a nice little tool that you can use also to prospect. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. All right, now we're going to go back. Oop, I went back too far. Let's go back to right here. Too many clicks. There we go. Okay, back to the home page. All right. You guys do get special pricing, so don't pay attention to the pricing. Your first one is half price if you never used this before, and then the premium reports are $15 less than our normal premium. So for a residential property, 1 to 4 units is $84.95, and the premium commercial reports are $99.95 for you. Okay. So then we're going to go into, and I can set you up, or you can set you up when you want to go place orders. Okay. I'm going to show you a couple things. Okay. Number 1, the NHD report, the sample tenant report, which is ours, is free. All the other companies charge, and a sample wildfire report, which talks about the optional wildfire disclosure that CAR through Fortress Fire have developed in order to assess wildfire risk on a property. Okay, let's go into the NHD. Okay, our first page is the NHD statement page. Okay, that has changed. So based on AB 1280, the NHD page must include 2 new things. It's always had the high and very high fire severity zone, or very high fire severity zone, and the wildfire disclosure report determination. Okay, and it's one or the other. It's not both. But now they've added the high fire state level responsibility and the very high fire the very high fire local, responsibility area. Now this can be both, but it's in a very high fire, And since it's a very high fire state level, it's also in a very high, can be in a very high fire local responsibility area. And we checked off both to show you that. Okay, so the two new things are the high fire hazard responsibility area and the very high fire local responsibility area. Everything else is the same. You have your property address, and it has the flood zones. Here it doesn't show, there's a special flood, and then also an area of potential flooding or dam inundation. You got your fire zones, and then you got your earthquake fault zone, earthquake fault zone, and you also have the seismic hazard, which breaks down into landslide and liquefaction. Does everyone know what liquefaction is? Anybody?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so liquefaction example is you go to the beach and you step in the wet sand, the wave comes in, and then what happens? You sink. So it's the same kind of thing. 80% of the San Fernando Valley is a liquefiable area, which means that it doesn't mean that it guarantees that if an earthquake happens, it's going to sustain more damage, but the likelihood is there depending on how close it is to the fault of the epicenter and which direction is moving. When I lived in Tarzana, I was about a mile away because it was really in Northridge. Northridge or Reseda. It was right on the borderline there. What happened was it moved through the middle of the townhouse next to me, and then you could see the footprint of it going towards Santa Monica. So it broke up the asphalt sidewalk, and it was a big mess back there in 1994. That's when all this became aware to everybody that, hey, we should be doing stuff about this. All right. Okay, then the signature part. Seller signature is required. Seller's agents are required. And when they sign off on here, it just says that they did not look up any of the information. They chose in good faith an NHD company to provide the information, and they're relieved of liability because we put that in there. We check off the box for them. And then that's that part. Then down here, it says the buyer represents that he understands the document, received a copy of it, know it's required by 1103 of the Civil Code, and that he's read it and received a copy of it. And then the buyer signs down here. Okay. So that's what that is. Now on this page, you can click on it and get right to the booklets. So it's the first place that you can actually click and get booklets right there. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Any questions? NHD statement. It's the same except for two things that they've added under the fire. Before I move on, I'm going to talk about another thing. It's called the zero zone. AB 3074 was passed in 2020, but now it's come back to light and being and it's enforced. So what insurance companies and fire departments are looking for is from the dwelling 5 feet from the property, that there's no vegetation on there that could be combustible or that could obstruct firefighters to get close to the property in order to fight fires. So that's what that one is about. Okay. So 1280 we talked about, those are both fire. Then we're going to get into some other stuff. Okay. I'll go back over here. When it becomes available, you'll be able to click here and get the new booklet based on AB 225. They're adding 3 new sections. One is global warming, sea level rise, and wildfire. So there'll be 3 new chapters. It has not been provided to us yet. They may be still working on it, but it could happen within this year or at the end of this year, beginning of next year. I haven't had the word. Gov Hutchison, my buddy, will let me know. But we haven't heard when that's going to happen, but it will be happening. Okay. All right. so we're gonna go to the next page. This thing is complicated. We try to make it as easy as possible. This is the FHDS notice. On this page is the second place that you would be aware of if the property is located in a high or very high fire severity zone. What does that mean? Oh, I'm gonna have to deal with the FHDS CAR form. And we're gonna get into that. This is the AB 38 zone for defensible space. So from here, it's 0 to 30, zone 1, and zone 2 is 30 to 100 feet. And that means all clearance and brush or anything that's combustible to be eliminated and kept away from the property, including vertical. So there has to be a 6 feet clearance of any brush below the leaf line of the trees. So they have to maintain and lower the fire risk by making sure that all leaves and dead brush and any brush that are bushes like the spruce bushes that are combustible, they have to be cleaned up. And if they're put up as a barrier around the property, they have to be a certain distance away from the property and reduce fire risk. Okay. And it just talks about AB 38 fire hardening and defensible space. Okay. And here is the first place that you can learn about it. And then also request a CAL FIRE inspection for compliance. This link right here. Okay, talks about defensible space, and here's the inspection. Okay, the only way you can set inspections is by doing email through the website. Calling them, they don't know how to handle it, number one, or they don't know. So that would be the do it. And why I would say don't do it through the state is because it takes a long time. It may be free, but it will delay the closing of your deal. Okay, but it is available, and there's the first place. Okay, the next thing, we call it a snapshot. Snapshot is a page where you're able to find out in a glance, based on 1103 requirements, how many, if any, are there hazards, how many natural hazard zones are marked in a particular state level determination, additional disclosure, and then local, county, city. And then we also put environmental. Here's the third place we talk about if the property's in a very high or high fire severity zone, but we also added the special flood hazard area too. So it's another way to understand what is going on with that property and how you have to deal with it. One of the key things is if it's in any of these, not only the action has to be taken, but immediately you should be connected with an insurance broker, because what does it mean? It means that probably additional insurances will be required. So it's a good idea to use the snapshot, but always be affiliated with an insurance broker. Okay, any questions on the snapshot? And it's just a quick way to find out, okay, do I have to pay attention? Yes, okay. Then I will show you how to get to everything. All right, the first thing is the defensible space decision tree. And basically what that is, and it's only for defensible space, it's a list of questions that if you fill this out, it will autofill the form for defensible space, not home hardening, but defensible space. And you can go through this. I would rather just do the form, but this was the tool that CAR came up with to assist persons and agents to fill out the form. And let me tell you guys, it's not your responsibility to fill out the form. You are to guide your clients to the form and ask them questions as you go through the form. Okay? It's not your responsibility, only to let them know and be aware that this form has to be completed. Okay? All right, I'm gonna go to the main crux of it. This is the form that has to be provided when it's in a high or very high fire severity zone. There are some exceptions. 3 exceptions are probate, vacant land, and trust. And the trustors all have to be deceased. If one of them is still alive, you have to fill out the form. But if all the trustors, then it's a irrevocable trust, and you don't have to fill out the form. But let's go through it. We know what the property address. You'll put in the parties. We don't know the parties. And then explanations under number 1, law applicable. Number A, home fire hardening disclosure. That means it involves properties that are 1 to 4 residential units. The seller is required to use a TDS, and the property is located in a high or very high fire state level determined area. And the last thing is the property was built before January 1st, 2010. Why? Because 2010, the building codes changed, and when they did remodeling and new home builds, they built it in line with the new guidelines for home hardening. So they were fire resistant, and they were built in a way that reduces fire risk. Okay, so that's A. The second part of this, and more important part, is the fact that defensible space. They want everyone to know that they have to be responsible for their own properties and make sure that they take the best care of their properties so that they're not a risk to fire. Because if you are a risk to fire, you're going to have trouble getting insurance. But they know what the condition of the property is and what they need to do to maintain it, whether it's a local vegetation ordinance that they come out and they issue to the party and they say, remove the brush, otherwise you're going to get fined, and they'll have to pay the county will have to pay, or the fire department will set it up with the city to pay somebody to come out and do it. And then if you're in the middle of a sale, they lien the property, and so you don't have a clear title. So you want to avoid that at all costs. You want to make sure you know what's going on with the property, all notices and everything like that. Okay, so we're going to go to defensible space. 3 of the same things. Number 1, the property contains 1 to 4 unit residential, and the seller is required to use a TDS, and the property is located in a high or very high fire severity zone. It does not matter the building was built before 2010. That doesn't figure into this part of it, okay? And then number C says, well, how do I determine if the property's in a high or very high fire severity zone? Well, you go and order a natural hazard disclosure report from a reputable company and talk to your natural hazard disclosure rep, which is me, okay? And it talks about some more CAL FIRE information, and there's the CAL FIRE viewer, and you can click on this, and it's supposed to give you an idea of the areas where the fire zones are and where you are in conjunction with that fire zones, okay? Which we do for you, and you can't make any mistakes when we run it. If you look at it and your client reads it wrong or something like that, it can create problems. But they have it there. They want you to be aware of where they're trying to help, okay? Any questions? Because we're going to get into the defensible space section. Okay, so we talked about the number 2, fire hardening and disclosure in the defensible space. Fire hardening statutory notice. The home is located in a high or very high fire severity zone. It was built before 2010, and it's a 1 to 4 unit residential property, and a TDS is required. So all those things line up. Then you go down to B, and remember it says seller aware of the following features that maintain wildfire and flying embers, okay? So then you go through here and you ask them the questions. Eave soffits and roof ventilation where the vents have openings in excess of 1/8 of an inch, not flame and ember resistant. Yes or no? It's what they say, or if they don't know, it's no. Same thing with roof coverings made of untreated wood shingles. Combustible landscaping or other materials within 5 feet under the footprint or under an attached deck. Single pane windows or non-tempered glass windows. Loose or missing bird stops or roof flashings. And I did all this work. I spent like $150,000 to do all my work. Rain gutters without metal or non-combustible covers. I went to Leaf Filter. They came out, they assessed the property, they cleaned the gutters, they made sure the gutters were straight, the downspouts were straight, and they put the cover. It took them about 3 hours, and they put the covers all the way around there. I'll never have to worry about stuff getting in there into my gutters. And it's not just because there's near trees, but animals climb up on your roof and they drop their whatever, you know, whether it's debris, whether it's fruit, if you have fruit trees, and then they block the downspouts and cause a problem, and then also lend to dried materials that are close to the roof line that could cause fire, and also catch a spark, and boom, you've got a roof on fire. Okay, so that is the home hardening part. Any questions? Well, there's one in the chat. Let's see. What's this? Oh, it's good afternoon. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next one. This is the more in-depth one. Okay. Number 3 talks about defensible space, disclosure, and addendum. Okay. Here it asks local compliance requirements. The property is or is not subject to a local vegetation management ordinance requiring defensible space around an improvement of property. Yes, for LA County, and I'm going to show you how I found that. Okay, we are going to go, I'm not going to click on anything, but I'm going to go here. You will be able to go right here. Oops, this one. AB 38 on page 1 of the table of contents. You just look down there. Right here, you click on this, AB 38, and it brings you to this page. Right here, AB 38 compliance page. It has the same thing we just talked about. It has to help your clients understand what is the ready for wildfire and how to protect the home from wildfires. It also talks about preparing your home for the home hardening and defensible space. And right here, this is the local agency for requesting the inspection and compliance documentation. It may cost anywhere from 0 to 150 or so, but it is faster, and it will be the local fire department there, okay? Here, we tell you, this is the property address, this is the county, this is the APN number. Local vegetation ordinance in place? Yes, Title 32, Section 4907.1, Los Angeles County. There it is. The next thing down below, there's only 2 counties in California that required for close of escrow are the Paradise, which is now burned, and now it's being rebuilt, and Truckee. They're both up north. They do require the inspection and compliance. At this point, there is no requirement for the seller to do any of that. All right, we're going back to the form. Here we go. So here we go. So on that one, we're going to click yes. Okay. Under B, you don't know these things unless you've done the inspection. So it says seller is unaware of whether the property is compliance with the applicable state law. That's true. And does not have the report. Okay. But it says 2, property is in compliance Is it? You don't know. You didn't have the inspection. And you'll provide it within how much time? Property is not in compliance with the state or defensible state's law, which you still don't know because you didn't get the inspection. So you skip it. So then C1, this is for defensible space. Buyer's responsibility, no local ordinance doesn't apply because there is a local ordinance. So you skip that one, okay? Now you go down to 2, buyer's responsibility, local vegetation ordinance in place, and as a result of the sale of property. What does that mean? It means as a result of the property means that before you can close escrow, you have to get the compliance documentation and inspection and compliance documentation into escrow. That doesn't apply because that's not true. LA County does not have a requirement like that. I just told you, it's Truckee and Paradise that do have requirements of that. Number 3, sound pretty good. Listen to this. Buyer's responsibility, local vegetation management ordinance in effect, and compliance as a result of the sale, as a result of the property, but buyer shall be obtain documentation of compliance for the defensible space law within 1 year after close of escrow, or if applicable, comply with the local required ordinance. So that one sounds the best so far because look, you're putting it on the buyer, you're still closing on time, and there is no requirement that the seller has to do the inspection and compliance, and it will delay the transaction, okay? But like I said, there are other ones. Say the seller, you want to put it on the seller, which they don't want to do any work. So if they do this and they find out there's an issue, most likely the buyer's gonna say, okay, well, I want you to do stuff. So let's do the first one. Seller's responsibility, local vegetation ordinance, compliance as a result of the sale of property. I told you what that is. That one is the one for Truckee and Paradise. So that's not it. Seller's responsibility, state or local compliance already completed the inspection and seller has obtained documentation of compliance. That doesn't apply because most people are not going to be proactive. Your buyers and your sellers is not going to be proactive. So that wouldn't apply. And then the last one, seller's responsibility, agreement to obtain state compliance and seller's compliance and deliver to buyer prior to the time for buyer's final verification. That's not going to be the case because again, it requires your seller to do something. And you know the seller, he just wants to close his transactions with the littlest headache and the littlest cost. Okay. Now D only applies if you do have the documentation, where you got it, and who you can contact to get it. Okay.
With the best check number 3.
Best is number 3.
Yeah.
C3 right here. Buyer responsibility is the best one to go with. Okay. And then down here under number 4 doesn't apply because final inspection report disclosure, seller has obtained a final inspection report and fire hardening or defensible space requirement as described by the government code. Seller has attached it or seller does not have a copy of the report, but it can get obtained for where it was done. Okay. And then the buyer and seller, this is an agreement. They have to sign. Buyer and seller have to agree to this. No matter what, whether they use the form or they're an exempt, they still have to sign. Okay. Because, and here's another thing it doesn't apply to. Doesn't apply to condos and townhomes because there's a association, you know, the association that they have. Vacant land, there's nothing to protect, so you don't have to do it, and there's no dwellings involved. So it's not something, you will have to do the local management, but you don't have to do the other.
Have you heard of people getting caught up, buyers after that 1 year period where they come in and make them comply?
Not because I haven't, and I don't
Asking.
think it will. Right now, according to Gov, they don't have an enforcement of it.
Yeah, okay.
He said that there's no enforcement of it at this time, and no one will knock on the door and say where it is. It only triggers when the property's sold again.
Oh, once
And
it's
then-
sold to the next person after the first buyer?
If this is in place or a new form is in place, you'll have to deal with it. But right now, that's the only time it comes up, and you keep doing it and doing it and doing it and
The
let the
form.
buyer, let the buyer, you know, be responsible.
Yeah, because I haven't heard anybody getting caught up in that yet.
Yeah, I don't think you will, at least at this point, because they don't have the manpower. Who's
Okay.
gonna knock on doors and say that kind of thing? Let me
Yeah.
see your, you know,
Certificate.
somebody, it would have to be a title company or somebody who keeps records of sales in the fire areas.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it's gonna come to. But who's gonna have the funds to
Yeah.
do that? Nobody. Okay, the other thing, any questions on that? Now you know how to do the form. You still call me, right? It is
Mhm.
confusing, but call me. I'll walk you through it with your clients. Okay, special flood hazard determination. This is the flood cert. These are required when you get insurances. It's required when you get your loans, but also insurance. They look at the flood certs to determine how much they're gonna charge for the premiums, okay? So we put it in there for the particular property. We're telling you that. We'll tell you what type of, if it's a regular or if there's a special flood. And we provide all that information, okay? It's gratis. It comes in the report, okay? So you get that. It's a nice tool. It's a nice thing to have that you can forward off to the parties that need it, okay? And then you go to a table of contents. Ours is the SMART report. As far as I know, we're the only ones with it. You go to the table of contents, and if you see something that's in there that you have to pay attention to, you click on it, and it will bring you to that page with the explanation. If you need further details, just contact me, and I'll be happy to explain it to you. But you just click on it. And we also talk about other things here, the additional, I don't want to go through everything because it will go so much longer. But you have the state level, you have the additional disclosures, you have the county city. A lot of times they fall in line with each other. But if they do differ, they're gonna look at the county city information and rule with that because they have the funds to let people come out and have people come out to make further inspections. Radon, you know what radon is? Radon is a odorless, tasteless gas that's emitted from just decaying soil. And that's why homes are either built on slab, or if they're not, they're built on a raised foundation. With every 5 feet, there are vents,
Mhm.
like my home, I'm in vents, to make sure that it emits into the air. The worst case scenario was in back east, and I think Pasadena has basements. Any homes that have basements that are trapped and there's no ventilation, if you breathe that over a period of time, you could develop respiratory problems, cancers, things like that. Okay, I know it's not the most, bless you. Bless you. The tax report. We're going to go to the tax report, but we're telling you here immediately in this, in the table of contents, is there a PACE hero on the property? There you go. No. 1915 bond. No. Melrose, no. We also give you the breakdown of all taxes on the property and the ad valorem of the last time it was sold, okay? And we also have a property tax estimator. And then we also go through additional exposures and advisories, okay? Which I don't want to spend a lot of time on right now. The environmental. Why get the environmental? Example, everyone, do you remember Michelle? I mean, do you remember, oh God, I can't think of her name, Leanne.
Yeah.
You were in the office when Leanne was there. So I told her every time when I was at the other company, I said, just get the environmental. She always got the standard, always. So I went in, I said, how's it going? She goes, oh man, I got a headache. And I said, why? What happened? She goes, I just got the standard report. And I found out that the property in the middle of the block, on one side was a mechanic shop, on the other side was a cleaners. They both have underground containers that were leaking, and they were moving towards the property, they found out. But they didn't know about it because they didn't get the environmental report. So these are the things that are in there. One thing that I'm talking about is the leaking underground storage tanks. We tell you if it appears on a list of a governmental site, which every one of us work off of governmental sites, we don't actually go out to the property, but you've got toxic release inventory, investor facility, spills, leaks, investigation and cleanup site. You have the leaking underground, which we talked about. National priority list. This is a school, guys, at Main Street and Garfield. It's on a national priority list, which means that it's being monitored and it's being set up for proper measures for cleanup and monitoring of the cleanup. I think what they did is they used chemicals in their garden, and the garden vet and some of the garden fertilizers and whatnot found out to be that it is hazardous and that it needed to be monitored and cleaned up. It wasn't safe to human or animal life. Then you have the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, which basically means that water sources and other sources in that area have to be monitored and clean so that the people that use it are not going to get sick, and they're, to maintain their health. And then solid waste, I'll give you an example. There's solid waste. There's one in the valley. I know you guys have your out. There's one in the valley up the 5, and it's off of Balboa, and it's back in the hills. There's one that's up in Castaic. There's brand new homes up there. The smell that they get sometimes and the gases that come out of there are a big issue. People are getting sick. They've written to the mayor to see what they're going to do. They haven't decided if they're going to close it down, but they are aware of it, and they're having problems selling the brand new homes because of it. And some of the people that are there on days, some days you smell nothing, but on those days where maybe it's overcast and it's keeping the smells in and stuff like that, that's what I hear. And I know I have a lot of friends up there, so I'm aware of that and everything. All right, let's go. Okay, so that's environmental. Okay, so we give you maps. Not everyone gives maps, we give maps. And then right underneath the map, you have your legend. So you can look at the property and see what areas are being affected by what zones. Okay? And it tells you right on there, special flood, you got the very high fire and wildland, and then you got the earthquake fault seismic hazard mapping right here. Okay? So we have all that. Then in here, we give you in-out determinations with a paragraph. Okay? So you get the paragraph there. All right, so I want you to see that. And that's basically it. I'll go to the tax real quick so you can see what that looks like. Important to see that. Whoops, what was that? Oh, that was the AB 38. Yes, it's right here. But it's important for you just to glance at this stuff, just go through it. Booklets, everything. They'll be amazed how smart you are. Okay, now here we are. We're in the tax. In the tax area, we give you the last time it was sold, we give you a phone number, and we'll give you that amount. Okay? The general ad valorem will tell you that. You get all assessments on the property. We'll tell you that. But before that, we give you Melrose in 1915, as well as the home energy in-out determinations on all that stuff. Oh, and by the way, we own all the data. We have our own tax case. We have our own NHD and environmental base. So we're not buying it. There are companies that buy part of the reports from other companies and put it together for you. Okay. So let's go in here. We're giving you all the direct assessments and other assessments on the property. Who is the contact agency, the phone number, and the amounts. You're getting it in there. Okay. And then for the next, you click on this, it brings you, I believe, to the booklet. I can't see because I have this in the way. And then there's estimator. You don't fill this out. This is for the client to fill out if they want to figure out supplemental taxes. Okay. You use the formula. It gives you pretty accurate amount what the supplemental tax is. But I showed you, you don't even need to do that. You just go to the top of our website, follow the prompts, boom, you're in. Okay, and you get it within seconds. Explanation, toxic mold, methamphetamine, water conserving plumbing fixtures, gas and hazardous. And I think that's it there. Now let me go into the flood zone report. Okay, this is required by law when you're doing leases, all right? So we provide it at no charge. No one else does, we do, okay? And we tell you, we give you both flood zones, special flood area and area of potential flooding, in or not in. Because the landlord is required to provide to the tenant if the property is affected by flood
That's the whole
zones.
state, right?
Yes, the whole state. And then the owner signs off, the tenant signs off, each get a copy. You've met your disclosure. You met your compliance, okay? And then it gives terms and conditions and what the flood, bless you, the flood zone insurance notice, and it gives you all that. And we also give you a map so we can show you the flood zone and what's going on with that. And these are very quick to order online or through me. We can get them to you, you know, Monday through Friday, usually 8 to 5:30. But this is the new one, guys. Not mandatory, optional. This is the wildfire optional report. And I did hear that cars changing the form. So when it pops up, it's going to say optional. Right now it doesn't. It makes you think you have to order it,
Yeah.
but it's not. Okay, so it gives you a satellite view of the property.
And this, we can click this to get it if we want it, right?
You can look at it. I would order this through escrow because say it turns out you don't need it.
Yeah,
You can cancel through escrow. If
Okay.
you guys order it, you can't cancel it.
okay.
You have to pay for it.
How much is it?
It's $140 set by car, not by us.
Okay,
Okay, and that can be paid through escrow.
okay.
Okay, so I think that's everything. I mean, it's real detailed. This goes by AB 38. It also has different areas that it goes through too. It circles the problem areas where work needs to get done. They give you the zones. And at the bottom of the page, they will actually tell you different things like the tree schematics and structures. It also gives you the high and very high fire, wildland fire hazard rating. And there are gauges on this thing, and you want to get out of the red zone. Let me see where other gauges. I think it's on the other side. I can't see it, but it's on the other side. But that's what it's all about. It will give you a rough estimate of what the cost will be in order to do the work, but it's a very rough estimate. And I thank you for your time. I'm available to you 24/7 pretty much. If I don't get to you right away, just leave a message. I'll get back to you the next day. But I'm here for you. And my biggest tip to you, don't be a secret agent. Always wear your badges, have cards, pens, appropriate documents with you, because you never know where the next deal is coming from. And I thank you very much. Any questions? Hi, Susan. Diana, Catherine, Lily, Rary. All right, I guess we're gonna end it. Thank you. Take care, all. There's still more pizza. Okay, I'll let you do it. Let me get up. Okay.
Thank you for coming, everybody. We appreciate your participation.
Yes. Thank you. Well, that was good. Yeah, very good.